Hello again. We are going to switch gears and talk about measuring the spread of data rather than the center of data. This is lesson 4.5, so let's get started. There are two measures of how the data is spread across the number line. One way is the range. That's the difference between the highest and the lowest values in the list. So that kind of gives you the range of values that are in your list. And then there's the interquartile range, and that's the difference between the first quartile, which represents 25% of the data below a certain line, and then the third quartile, which is 75% of the data is below a certain line. So this is going to be helpful with some examples, so let's get to it. Here is my list. It's a relatively short list. So there are 7 numbers in that list. So the first thing I'm going to calculate is the range, and I just take the largest number and subtract the smallest number, and I get 11. And I know that the median is 4. There's only one, well, there's always only one median, but I don't need to calculate the average of 2 middle numbers because there's only one middle number in the list, and that middle number is 4. So when I go to calculate the first quartile and the third quartile, I will ignore the median, and that way each half of the list now has 3 numbers. So I'm going to calculate the median of each half. So the median of the lower half is going to be that 3, and then the median of the upper half is going to be the 9. The interquartile range is just the difference between those two numbers, which is 6. Okay, so there's a simple example of range in IQR. I'm going to go through different scenarios so that you can see what happens. Here's another set of data, and it looks like I have 10 numbers in this list. The range is 29, the highest number, minus 11, which is the lowest number, and that's 18. The median is actually going to be 17 because there are 2 middle numbers, 16 and 18, and 17 is halfway between them. So when it comes to splitting the list in half, I'll ignore the 17, but it wasn't really a number in my list, so there's really nothing to ignore, and I can pretend that each half of the list has 5 numbers. So I carry on and figure out the median of each half of the list. So the median for the lower half of the list is 14, the median for the upper half of the list is 19, and the interquartile range is the difference between those two, and that's 5. All right, so that was another scenario. Something else that could happen, it looks like now I have 9 numbers, so I will have a range of 14. 35 is the highest number, 21 is the lowest number, and the difference between those is 14. There will be one middle number, so the median is just that number, it's 26, and that splits the list into 2 halves, and each half has 4 numbers in the list. So if I look at the median in the lower half, it's halfway between 23 and 25. Those are the 2 middle numbers in the lower half. So that's going to be 24. And if I look in the upper half, that set of 4 numbers, the 2 middle numbers are 28 and 32, and halfway between those is 30. So Q1 is 24, Q3 is 30. The interquartile range is the distance between those, which is 6. Okay, and the last example is this list of numbers right here. It looks like there's 8 numbers. So the range is the highest number, 50, minus the lowest number, 40, which is 10. The median is going to be halfway between the 43 and the 45, since those are the 2 middle numbers. So the median is 44, cutting the list into 2 halves, and each half has 4 numbers again. So the lower quartile is going to be, or Q1 is going to be halfway between 41 and 42. That's 41.5. Q3, the upper quartile, is going to be halfway between 45 and 48 because those are the 2 middle numbers in the upper half, and that is 46.5. And again, the interquartile range is going to be the distance between those 2 numbers, which again is 5. So there's different scenarios of what could happen if you have an even number or an odd number of numbers in your list, and then once that list gets split in half, does each half have an odd number of numbers or an even number of numbers? And I think I've gone over all possible scenarios with you. But if you still have questions, just let me know, and I will see you tomorrow.